Okay, so in this final video here, we're going to learn how to actually output a final render of this. So right now, we've been working with our IPR turned on, right? And the IPR, again, that's sort of just an interactive renderer that continually updates as we make changes to our scene. And this is what you want to be working in while you're sort of, while you're kind of testing things out. But when you finally get everything working the way that you want it to, and you need to do a kind of a more sort of powerful final render, you're going to want to render it using the production renderer. And the production renderer it's not an interactive renderer like this, right? It's actually it's a kind of, it will render in a kind of a more high quality way. And you can actually, when we use the production renderer, turn the quality settings up to much more dramatic, kind of high levels of quality and adjust the resolution, and the render will contain a lot more information. So what we want to do is switch this off. And we also want to go to our render settings again. So we're going to go back up to the clapper at the top of the screen here. And we want to go to the tab here under our render settings that says Common. And under the Common tab, this is where you can kind of really tweak all the ways that the render will be output. So for example, right here, we can change things like the file format. We can change the file name, and all of that. And this is stuff that I would recommend doing if we were doing an animation. But since we're just outputting a single image, there's a quicker way that we can do this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to learn how to change the resolution right here for now. So right down here, there's a little tab that says Resolution. And we want to change this to under presets here from HD 540, which is a very low resolution, to something like at least HD 1080. And it's very important to only change this resolution after you've done all of the basic kind of decision making that you need to do, right? So in other words, this render takes a lot more time to render because it's higher resolution, and so you want to wait till the end. And so once we've changed our resolution, we can exit our render settings here, and then go back up to our render tab at the top. And instead of clicking on IPR, we're going to click on the little clapper here to the left of IPR. And this is the one that just doesn't have an icon on it, and it's just blank. And when we open that up, we will get our production renderer. Now, right now, there we go. Okay. And you'll see here that this won't take very long on my computer because I have a relatively fast computer. But on the computers at school, this process will probably take about 5 minutes. But you can see here what these are. So now Vray is basically allocating the job of rendering on a per core basis. So depending on how many cores your computer has, it will allocate the resources accordingly. So if your computer has 4 cores on it, you will have 8 of these little buckets. If your computer has 2 cores, you'll have 4 buckets. And that will really dictate the speed. And as it's rendering, there's a little button that you can press up here, this little plus sign here. If you click on the plus sign, Vray will actually render wherever your cursor is. So if you have a kind of a slow render going and you want to see one particular part, you can drag your cursor over it and it will render that area first or next. And so this should just take another few seconds here. And you can see towards the end the buckets get smaller as it tries to sort of maximize how the job is being allocated to the processors. And you can see the quality here is much higher than it was when we were rendering interactively. And part of that is just because we're rendering at a higher resolution. But also this is sort of like not a progressive renderer, right? This is what is known as bucket rendering. So it will render, and once this bucket is done rendering, the job is finished. And this is using relatively, kind of standard settings for Vray. And I wouldn't, once we've changed that, again, these are the quick settings that we made at the beginning for Photo Studio. So once we've got this completed, which again will just take a few seconds, and you can see what areas it's kind of fixating on a little bit and which ones are taking longer. And it's almost always the glass that takes the longest to render here. But it does look like some of the reflections around here are pretty complicated, so it's having to think a little bit harder about those as well. So when those are done, there are just a few really quick things that we can do to save this. And this is a pretty simple process. And there are lots of things that you can mess around with here. This is what is known, by the way, this window is called the Vray frame buffer. And what it is it's a quick editing area if you want to do image editing, but I don't really recommend that you do much in the Vray frame buffer. What I would recommend is that if you want to edit these, you can always do so in Photoshop, right? And the nice thing about the frame buffer is it allows you to just export your files in a variety of different formats. So once you've finished your render here, we can go to the little, once you've finished your render, you can go up to the top menu bar here and click on the little disk icon. And that will bring up a save window, right? Just like we would have seen before. So you can save this anywhere you like, save it to the desktop, what have you. And then down here at the bottom, this is where you'll choose your file format. And if you're going to be editing something in Photoshop and you've got other work you want to do on the image, I recommend saving it as a TIFF file. If you want to turn it in for class, which is what we're going to be doing here, I recommend PNG or JPEG. And when you save the file, just save it as your last name, so in my case, Vanderheiden, the project number, and this is going to be project 1, and you might even put a render number, so this is render 1. So in case you wanted to do different camera angles and so on. Then we just hit save. And now, if we go to our desktop, we will be able to call up our image. And for some reason, this is taking a lot longer than it should. Let's try that one more time. There we go. So that's our image, and that's what you will be turning in when you turn in your projects.